Hello.
Hi.
Congratulations, firstly, on the success of Gangubai and Rocket Boys. Two
Thanks.
consecutive hits. So, how does it feel?
Feels nice.
How was your experience playing Amin Faizi and working with Sanjay Leela Bhansali again? So, what was it about?
It was lovely. I mean, lovely to work with him again. Lovely to play such a different kind of a character because, in Padmavat I wasn't as noble.
Yeah, yeah.
It was nice to play a completely different character from the one that I played before. It was nice to be in a play somebody that cares for the lead character and Alia's character and doesn't have all of the prejudices and stereotypes that other people had about what, first of all, women are, what a prostitute is, what kind of role they should have in society. But I feel he was a lot more egalitarian and thoughtful and a beautiful man, And I think he was absolutely in awe of her character, and in a version of I'm not gonna say love. It's more like genuine admiration,
Yes. Hmm.
awe of this woman. And I liked the idea that he was very delicate with her, presumably because he knows that life may not have been so delicate with her up until that point, and how she would naturally have a kind of skepticism and suspicion of men entering her life claiming to help
Yes.
her. I like the idea of that, like, delicateness and never crossing the line where admiration or awe could be misread as a claim, or because we like to think of love as one thing only. But I honestly believe that oftentimes, because of the way we've been raised and the way that society has given us these ideas of it, it's a claim as well.
Yeah.
It isn't just love. It's
Right.
a kind of ownership or possession as well. And he, I didn't want the character to ever cross that line. I hope that came.
Would you like to tell us some on-set stories that were like that will be forever with you now? Some memorable thing.
So many things. I mean, if you're looking for like a snappy, fun anecdote, I don't really have any off the top of my heads. But Gangubai we shot a long time ago, so
Yes.
it was a while ago, and we were shooting nights, and they had they constructed the whole set at Film City. They just shot day for night for most of the film, so it was great to be working with Sudeep again as well. And the set the guys had made, the level of detailing on the set, like the age, the walls, and you could just sit there kind of looking at any little section of the set and the production design and being like, somebody has hand painted this. It's incredible, the aging, the way they made it look. It was just really lovely. The scenes were simple, it was mostly just me and her. So she's really wonderful co-actor and very reactive and responsive and is in complete control of her craft. So it was just fun to act with her. As far as Rocket Boys goes, that's more recent in my mind. We shot it all last year. And there were so many things. I mean, we'd just be sitting there sometimes after shooting a scene related to the opening of India's first swimming pool reactor, and we'd just be sitting there being like, we actually doing this? I mean, are we understanding the import of this moment? And of course you have to let that be like,
Yes.
the characters didn't understand the import of the moment. So we don't need to. They were just doing their best in a new circumstance, just as we are in the new circumstance of trying to recreate the cinematic. So we're doing our best. But we would just be sitting there being like, I can't believe that this is happening. So many things related to Rocket Boys. Man. We got to shoot in Pune. It was really lovely. Up on the roof of their college, and where we've done the flag hoisting scene. Once we find that, it's beautiful. And there's so much to shoot up there. We just kind of were all. It was. We were shooting, but it also felt like chutti. We're all upstairs, outside, and in between takes, we're all just chit-chatting. I think that team really got to know each other really well over the course of the year. And and love each other quite a lot. And I know people say that a lot about like, oh, I love all the people or whatever, but that's not always true. In this case, it really friggin' it was true. They were really had a lot of heart. Really were honestly trying to make the best show that they could, and it was great. Harshveer Oberoi, who is the DOP, and his entire team, Arpit and Amog and Shaz and the focus pullers, they were all just like fun and funny, and the AD team was funny, and Abhay I love. Ishwak would also get in on the joking around, and it was nice to like kind of just
Good.
keep the serious bits for action. No, you don't need to hold that heaviness in. When I know that like when people are like, so how do you prepare for the role? And I'm like, I just read it many times and I rehearse it, and I try to rehearse it with many people, and I try to workshop it a lot with the director. And if I can get the actors to co-read with me, I love it, because I think rehearsal can only help you tighten things up. When the actor himself reads it to you once, you're like, oh, you're going to play it like that. Oh, okay.
It's so cute.
Well, then I can rethink maybe how I'll play it, And so whenever I say this, people always seem slightly disappointed that I'm not saying that, I went into isolation for 4 months and the character just wouldn't leave me the pain of it. It's like, whatever, man.
Now, talking about your performance as Malik Kapoor in Padmavat, it was so convincing, so gripping. But at the same time, one can only imagine how it must be like to play such a dark character. But what was it like for you? How was that whole thing done?
I didn't think Malik Kapoor was that dark of a character, frankly. I feel Ranveer's character was a bit darker. Malik Kapoor, who knows? If he was in charge, who knows what could have been happening? He was a slave given to a king,
What about your bond with Ranveer Singh? How is he as a co-actor?
Yeah, he was really good. He's really good. I enjoyed working with him.
Now we know the many faces of real life Jim Sarbh, but what is he like in real life? And what are your other passions and interests that keep you busy?
I'm not going to tell you. I just met you.
Go ahead, go.
Tell you what the real me is like? I mean,
Yes.
my friends know what the real me is like. You guys know what I've sold you.
Oh God. Don't do that to us. Thoda sa to.
Right?
So in an interview, you mentioned that you acquired Homi Baba's desk at an auction 9 years ago.
Yeah.
So what was it about the desk that appealed to you? What was that resonated with?
Do you want to see it? Can I see
Yeah, sure. Classic.
Oh, God. It's nice, huh?
Very nice. Very cool.
So the shape of it was just so interesting, and the Art Deco style and this weird semicircular curve, just so cool. So I liked the style of it and the shape of it a lot. So, for me, it didn't have as much to do with Homi Baba at the time. It was just the style of the desk.
The table was very much of your type, Jim Sarbh type. And Mimi on the table was like cherry on the cake.
Right.
With each new performance that you deliver, you outdo yourself with your performance. So what can the audience expect from you next?
The next thing that's coming out is this show called Eternally Confused and Eager to Love. It's coming out on the 18th, I believe. I guess next Friday. It's a show about, somebody put it really well recently in one of our promotions. Actually, the person asking the question said, it's not about coming of age, it's about coming of aging. And that's exactly what it is. It's a coming of aging tale about a 25-year-old in Bombay named Ray, played by a wonderful actor named Bihan, and Mismatched Last. I don't know if you've seen that, but he's really very good, and he plays this lead character who is awkward and means well and has good intentions, but just is plagued with insecurity and a version of self-loathing, and as a consequence just doesn't know how to be himself, or doesn't feel comfortable being himself, especially around women and in the dating kind of world. And so I play this character named Wiz, who is in his head. So essentially, I'm the embodiment of this wizard, superhero wizard that he's been talking to since he was a kid, of actually his own private thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
And the way we thought about it was like, it's kind of, I mean, if you want to go Freudian, it's like the id and the superego. But if you want to go pop culture, it's like the angel and the devil on the shoulder, you know? So there's the voices in your head in general, they're confusing, you know? We like to say that, oh, it's the angel and the devil on the shoulder. And usually they look different and they sound different. But the fact of the matter is the voice in your head sounds the same. There's no clear distinction. You don't know if you're being led by the angel or by the devil, depending on the moments that the thoughts are playing out. So Wiz is kind of that for him. Sometimes it's the id, which is the like base instincts, the silly instincts, the childish ones, the selfish ones, the desire to just get what it wants and potentially be even brutish in the process. And then there's the superego, which is the ones that has greater knowledge and is in touch with a knowledge that you could say is floating around in the collective unconscious, or is just the knowledge that this person has received over the course of their life that their conscious mind has not been able to process, which is most of our lives. Most of our knowledge is unconscious knowledge. We just like to believe it's all collective knowledge. It's all conscious knowledge. Actually, there was a study recently that they did where they have the brains hooked up to electrodes, and it was a simple question where you'd have to either choose the left arrow or the right arrow, and it would depending on that, and so questions were asked and their brains were being monitored, and then they would choose, and then questions was asked, their brain was being monitored, and then they would choose. And the study proved that the internal brain processes have made the decision, knows which way they're going to go 7 seconds before you actually choose the left or the right arrow. So the 7 seconds is essentially your conscious mind convincing itself for why it needs to do that, coming up with the reasoning behind it.
Such an intellectual answer. Oh my God. A lot of fans are asking about Made in Heaven. When is the season 2 coming up?
Made in Heaven season 2? I don't have a clue. I have
There's
one day
more.
left of shoot. I don't know how much the rest of them have.
So how do you deal with this female attention? How do you respond to all the love that you are showered with?
I enjoy the love that I'm showered with, and yeah, it's nice, to be showered with love.
You have played really versatile characters over the years, from Khalil and Neerja to Kafoor in Padmavat, and from Adil in Made in Heaven to now Homi Baba in Rocket Boys. So they are all such distinct personalities altogether. So how do you come to embody these roles?
I respond to the material. So if the material is those diverse people, because they've been written as such, it's not that I have made them distinctly different people. Like in Padmavat, that character was always a brilliant character, even on via the script. As far as Neerja goes, I think there were like 4 or 5 actors that they chose to do the workshopping, and over the course of the workshopping, they realized after 4 or 5 days that I would be good to play Khalil. But and I love workshopping. So for me, how to be good as an actor is to workshop, to rehearse, to keep playing with the lines, and to keep trying to complicate and make them more. I'm not going to say more interesting, because that isn't what I mean. They are interesting as they stand. It's more like to make them more truthful. And I believe that actual truthfulness involves depth and contradictions. So there isn't only one emotion playing at a certain time. There are always many, and they are often in direct opposition. And you are choosing what to do despite that opposition. So sometimes you may be incredibly scared, but you're playing brave to mask your fear. So I don't think any brave person is not afraid. I feel that they just are good at they're just good at managing their fear. So that's more or less the approach that I try to bring to the parts. I've just been lucky also to play these interesting characters like Khalil, who he was terrified being on that plane as well, and his response to that terror was barbaric, and that is not the kind of person that I would like to be in any capacity. I would like to respond to my fear with awareness and gentleness. And obviously, this man couldn't do that. In addition, like, right, so then all of the other parts, Malik Kafoor, great character. Wow, on paper, brilliant. I remember reading it, like, really excited. I remember Ranveer's first question after reading the script was, who's going to play Malik Kafoor? Because he was a brilliant character, as written. Adil, also, having a character who is truly, can't make up his mind between two people and is patriarchal and believes in a certain hierarchy of both class and gender. It's nice to take on these people and hopefully show the inner workings of these kinds of men, that in a way that of course what they're doing is not right, and I'm not defending their behaviors by any capacity. I'm just saying that they exist. And I think it's important to understand why they exist and how they exist, and the forces that have shaped them. Because if we only berate the human being, we don't understand how this human being is being made, and we can never change the forces that contribute to being who they are. But I have appreciated in this last year getting to play some characters that have a good moral compass. Like, for example, I believe Homi Bhabha, despite him appearing to be grey in certain moments and seem a bit bullish and a bit arrogant, I believe he has a very noble moral compass. I believe the same with the character in Gangubai, Faizi. I believe the same for another film that's coming out later this year, maybe in May. I'm not allowed to talk about it. But again, the character has a very strong moral compass. I like that as well, because it's also nice to be able to say things that I want to believe. Sometimes when you play the bad characters, the not so good characters, you're saying things you actually secretly don't believe that much, or you don't want to support as a way of life. Again, it's important to show these people because it's important to understand. But I've been enjoying this last year playing different kinds of people.
You've done your undergraduate in psychology, and I just wanted to know if your study in psychology helps you in adopting the roles better.
I can understand the complexity of thought to a certain extent, to the best extent that I can. And I can understand that often the failings also of thought and the limitations of thought and the limitations of behavior, and that unconscious motives and the way a person has been shaped is well beyond their comprehension. And so sometimes you act in ways that astound you or confuse you, or you know very well that you shouldn't be doing it, but you just do it. You just do it. And why, And what does that create in you then? And Adil is a good study in that way. Like, he knows exactly that what he's doing is wrong. It's just it seems like it's inescapable. Like the idea of the Greek tragedy, that the character knows and the audience knows, because the Greek chorus comes out and tells you exactly what's going to happen at the end of the play. But the journey there is inevitable. Because sometimes conscious thought just can't change you. So that's how it helps. And how it doesn't help is it can straitjacket you and make you believe that an actor is what an actor thinks, but an actor is what an actor acts. And acting is the most important. To act, action. What are your actions? I don't like. I personally think that if an actor is too much inside of their head and too busy analyzing what their character would or wouldn't do given the circumstances, it's like your character could do almost anything. You just have to find a way to make it believable and honest. Like you don't have to, saying that my character would absolutely not do this, and there are instances of even that where you may disagree with the director, but essentially I feel you shouldn't be stuck in your head. I feel you should be more in your body and how you say things.
The characters have a lasting impact on you, on your personality, after you are done playing those.
I don't know.
No? Also wanted to know what area intrigues you the most in reading.
All kinds of areas. Before this, I read this non-fiction book called The Hidden Life of Trees by Peter Wolleben. Now I've moved
Yeah.
on to another book called The Dawn of Humanity, A New History. Really interesting book, talking about how basically all our ideas of modern democracy and all the ideas that we thought initiated from Europe and particularly France at the time of the Enlightenment were basically imitations and stealings from Native American and other country critiques of the European system. And so our whole idea of equality and fraternity and, essentially they all came from indigenous people's critique, from the places that Europe were colonizing. When they would engage with the people they were colonizing and learned the language and got into debates with them, they found that actually they heavily critiqued European society and found it to be ridiculous and slavish and so feudal and had no sense of personal liberty or freedom. And really an interesting liberty, equality, fraternity. That's it. So this idea of liberty, the personal freedom, that now we think is a product of European culture trickling down, is actually more similar to indigenous peoples all over the world at the time of colonialism than anything else, which is feels right. I think the European model and propaganda is just ludicrous. For years, we have been made to believe that they are the keepers of culture and the keepers of civilization, and that's just good propaganda. Nothing else.
Will you like or would you like to go back to theatre or directing?
Sure, I'd like to go back to theatre. I've never left theatre. I would like to continue to do plays as and when I can, and depending on the material. I hope that Bruce Guthrie, the head of the NCPA, manages to figure out how to put Seawall back out, because we did a recording of Seawall 2020 December, which is a phenomenal play by this guy Simon Stephens. Just so beautiful. Beautiful, tragic, all of it rolled into one. And it's a 13-page monologue, and I hope there's a way to get it out. And he sent me another couple ideas of plays to do, Bruce. I'm interested in looking into them. Directing again, I don't know.
Before we wrap up, let's just do the classic midday rapid fire. Yeah? 3 words to describe yourself.
Heart on sleeve.
A director you really want to work with again.
Abhay Pannu.
A character you would love to play.
Sure.
Rapid fire. Okay. Favorite book.
Don't have one.
Favorite vacation destination.
Ngorongoro Crater.
Favorite movie.
Don't have one. How can you choose?
Right. So thank you so much for your time. I enjoyed a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.